Hey there, citizens, Paler here, and welcome back. It's been a while since I've done a tour of duty, but today we're going to be kicking the rust off by checking out this girl behind me. This is the Banu Defender, or the Crab, as some people have decided to call her. Pretty obvious reasons why they're calling her the Crab. You got some bulgy eyes there, you got these arms that could have claws in them, the legs sticking down like they do. Yeah, I definitely see the comparisons to the Crab and everything, but we'll call it the Defender from here on out. This ship's been a long time in the making. We should have had it, I want to say 2 patches ago, so 6 months ago. They've been taking their time with this one for it's going to be basically the design start point for the merchantmen later on. Let's come up here, open up the front door a little bit. You can see the Crab a little bit more back away. So now it's got its mouth open. What was I saying? Yeah, so the merchantman's going to be taking a lot of design cues from it. Right now there's a graphics glitch where we're seeing the Portolosar ring through its mouth, which is not the way it's supposed to be. Let's close that back up again and back away. But anyway, like I said, should have been coming along about 6 months ago. They kept delaying it, which is a little odd for a ship of this size. It's not a very large ship. But when you do look in at it, you know, there is a lot of artistry that went into this. So here's your size 2 Tachyon cannons up front. We'll walk back through here a little bit. You got some of that. Hardpoint wise, for primary loadout, it does have 4 size 3s, comes by default gimbaled down to 4 size 2s. So these are the Siege Tachyon cannons that were released previous patch or the patch before that. They're no longer available to purchase in any of the shops. If you want these, they only come on the Banu Defender. The size 3s and 1s are gone, only the size 2s. Work our way around here. You'll see they did some cool little details on like these golden brass color area, like this hieroglyphic inlay and stuff goes all the way around. There's also kind of like a carbon fiber look to the underside of it and everything. Work our way back around. Some more carbon fiber on the landing gear, on the tail, some more gold. Double engines in the back. We'll move around. There's the other side. Oh, a little bit of a glitch there. You can see there should be a connector across, I imagine. What's the other side look like? Yeah, so you can see there should have been like a piece connecting out to the arm. I wonder if I insurance claim this, if that would come back, or if it's something else going on. We'll try that later on, but not too big deal. Come back around. Honestly, a fairly small ship for what it is. Consider this thing is supposed to be called a heavy fighter. We'll open it up again. Walk on inside. Actually, so did you see the ramp come down? I actually like this ramp a lot. It's a hybrid of that Carter Al ship where the landing gear kind of comes out of nowhere, or not the landing gear, but the stairs. These are kind of like, I don't know, almost like fish teeth. How some fish, their teeth retract in, I think, if I'm not mistaken. These kind of come back out like that. I think it's a nice little aesthetic. We'll come up inside here. As we do get in, there's a little button you can turn around for closing the door real easily. They need a few more things like that. Would be nice. Step up inside here, and we'll go ahead and we'll turn the lights on. So the doors there's 2 seats for this. There's a pilot and a co-pilot seat on either eyeball. You can fly from whichever one you want, so that's easy. I tend to fly from the left-hand side of things. For now, we'll just turn the power on. So we can actually see so the interior lights will come on. We'll do a quick walkthrough of the interior. There's not a whole lot to the interior to see. Well, here's third person. You can see it definitely looks a little bit more like a Crab like this with it retracted back in. Definitely gives that look, I think. I don't think it's a good looking ship, but it is a unique looking ship, and I like unique looking. So like, in terms of what a spaceship would look like, it's certainly not something I would jump to, but I don't mind the design. I like that it stands out in that. These doors for the pilot seat and the co-pilot seat, they just, you do go up. Anyway, that's a different point. The doors automatically open up on either side just when you approach them. As you back away on the side between the doors and the ramp, there are 2, here I'm just actually looking around at some of the art design. This ship Definitely feels like it was more grown than crafted. Like, it doesn't feel manufactured, it feels grown. I would say this has an Alien or Prometheus vibe to it, between the lighting and the color and some of the different textures and everything. But the interior, there's not a whole lot to it. Like I said, there's a bed here, there's another bed on the other side, there's some panels here, but they don't actually access anything. So basically all you can do is you can log out. Here's the co-pilot bed, or vice versa, however you want to look at it. But that's basically it in the back of this. Right by the landing ramp, as it comes up on either side, there's 2 weapon racks, is what I was going to say. I'm not sure if I actually looked at them in the footage. Right there you can see one of them, and there's the other one, just right in the pillars to either side between the doors. And then again, approach the door, it'll open up, and we can actually fly from the co-pilot seat rather than the pilot seat. What I was going to say is when we do get into it, one thing to notice is you do kind of go up into the bubble a fair bit. It raises you up about 18 inches when you get in. So I bring this up right now because there's a little bit of a concern I've noticed with other ships, like when the seat moves like that, when someone disconnects or they die in the seat or whatever, the ship doesn't tell it, oh hey, there's no one in here and everything, which then lowers it back down and everything, so someone else can't get in. Now luckily for this, you can fly from either seat, so if that happens, you just get in the other seat and you should be good to go. But yeah, let's go ahead and we'll bring the ship back online. We do have to, right now there's some issues with the 2 control panels. You can fly from one or the other. You can't fly from both at the same time. So I had to restart the engines and the shields on this side as we take off here. We'll move out away from Olisar a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and jump into third person. This does have a really good landing retract animation. A lot like the Hawk, just really elaborate and everything, but it really pushes the forward arms, or the arms far forward as it goes. Here we go, we'll see it deploying forward, and they zoom way out there in front of you. Kind of makes the ship a lot more sleek, narrows it down a fair bit. Look at it from the underneath, and there's the arms going back, and you can definitely see that right arm, the glitch in the texture there or whatever for where that metal piece should be. It's a good looking little ship. You do have green engine trails, which I think are unique to this. Most of the other ones are blue, with a few exceptions being like the Asperia Glaive and stuff. I think theirs are red, if I recall. Jump back in here. Overall, the cockpit is quite nice. I think there's a good field of view on this thing. You look around, it looks quite good. We're going to go ahead and do a quick quantum travel jump. As that's one of the other things. I'm guessing most people have already seen it, but they did redo the quantum travel effect for this ship. They've kind of just tweaked the graphics a little bit of it and changed the colors. It looks pretty cool, I'll grant. It's just quantum travel, so not crazy, but it looks pretty cool. Whoops, I did not mean to retract the landing gear. I wanted to hit B, not N. So let those come back in, send them back out, and then we can go ahead and make this jump and see the pretty shiny graphics. Oh, somebody else jumping out there. And here we go. Starts off blue, and then it's going to transition up. That little hang as it goes into quantum, and there it goes. Cool, neat little effect going on. I like it. It's cool enough. So, alright, let's talk a bit more about the ship as we go. So we're going to throw some Arena Commander footage up here as I break it down. The ship, we're going to compare this thing a lot to the Saber. Those of you that have messed around with the Saber, whatever, you'll understand why pretty much right off the bat. It has a lot to do with that primary armament. The Saber comes with 4 size 3 hardpoints also. So you have, in terms of what you can do with your primary weaponry, these 2 ships are the exact same. Now the Saber does have some things that it does a little bit more than the Banu Defender, and vice versa. The big thing for the Saber, I would say, is it does have a larger missile payload. So by default, the Saber comes with 4 size 3 missiles, whereas the Banu Defender only comes with 4 size 2 missiles. So there's about a 30% gain in missile damage that the Saber can put out compared to the Banu Defender. The next big difference, though, is the shields. So the Saber is kind of a unique ship where it comes with 3 size 1 shield generators, and then the Banu Defender actually comes with 1 size 2 shield generator. Keep in mind now, I'm going to pull some numbers. These numbers come from hardpoint.io. I don't know how exactly accurate they are. I don't know if they're being data mined out of the game or where they're getting their information, but it's the only numbers I actually have to go on. Now, according to this, the default shield generator on the Banu Defender, that size 2, gives it 36,460 shields. That's a lot of shields. That's quite a bit of shields. That's, I think, maybe more than the Vanguard. No, the Vanguard's like 40,000. It's roughly that of the Vanguard Warden, which has 2 size 2s. The Saber, on the other hand, with its 3 size 3s, according to this, only has 7,020 shield. So the Banu Defender has about 5 times more shield capacity than the Saber does. I'll tell you, when I actually play the Banu Defender, while I do feel its shields feel reasonably good, it does not feel 5 times that of the Saber. There is a trade-off though. The Banu Defender shields are very slow recharging. So it has a 30-second delay once the shield drops before the shields do start to recharge, and then they only recharge at a slightly higher rate than the Saber. And since you have so many more shields to recharge, you're recharging at 419 per second. So to get all the way back up to that 36,000, it takes quite a few seconds to fully recharge. But you also have that 30-second delay in there. Whereas the Saber only has a 12-second delay, and then it recharges at like 300 and some. Where's my shimmer? 306. So it recharges about 100 less per second, but it's recharging far fewer than it. So in my experience playing around with the ship a fair bit, the shields on the Defender do feel more robust, but they don't feel drastically more robust because of that delay of recharge and stuff. And again, I don't know how exact these numbers are. Beyond that, though, the Banu Defender has the rest of its hardpoints are size 1s, so it's engines, its power plant, its coolers, and its quantum drive are size 1. So you're not going to be running around at the speed of a Vanguard through quantum. You're going to be the same speed as that of the Saber within whichever drive you have. They're size 1s overall. In terms of maneuverability, they're actually surprisingly close, and this is what kind of is really caught me off guard when I first took this ship out. I expected it to fly more like that of, say, the what's it called? The Titan, not the Titan. Titan's one of the models. It has an EMP version and everything. I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, I was expecting it to be more of a mid-size performance ship, not quite as fast as the fighters and all that stuff. Well, you can see here our top speed is actually 1200, and our combat speed is 202. Whereas if we compare that to the Saber, it has a top speed of 1235, so just very slightly faster, and it actually has a combat speed of 200 and where'd it go? Combat normal speed 206. So 6 more or 4 more and 35 more respectively. So it's not that much faster. Pitch and roll, or yaw and pitch actually. Funny enough, the Banu Defender is slightly better than the Saber. It has a better pitch and a better yaw than the Saber does, but the Saber does have a notably quicker roll rate, so you can use your shields a little bit more by rolling them than that. But overall, like in terms of flight handling, they're not drastically different. I don't have numbers on this. I do feel that the Saber slows down and accelerates faster. The Defender having more mass, it just takes a little bit more to slow down, considering it's using the same size engines and everything. So you can get in and out of turns quicker with the Saber, I feel, despite the yaw and pitch of the Defender being about the same. But as you can see, when we put all these things side by side, in terms of combat capability, they're not that drastically different, these two ships. There is the element of stealth that we haven't really brought into account yet, which simply because it's not really used in-game that much. You know, perhaps in the future as the system gets fleshed out a little bit more, there'll be more to do with the stealth. But for now, like, in terms of combat, realistically between these two ships, whichever one has the better pilot or gets the drop on the other one, I would say it favors that person overall. Which makes me a big fan of the Banu Defender, because the Defender can do a lot of things that the Saber can't beyond that. You can actually go out and reliably run retrieval missions and disposal missions and all of that stuff with the Defender, which is not something you can do with the Saber, with the Hornet, the Super Hornet, any of the other ones. You cannot do. The next best thing would be a Titan, and that was the ship I was trying to remember, the Titan, where you have the cargo capacity or the bounty hunting version and all of that stuff. those ships, you know, are kind of like this, but they give up a lot in the combat area where this thing does not. You have what is essentially a saber combat ship with the utility of one of those other ships that can't keep up with the saber in terms of combat. And I think that makes it quite a compelling ship for what it costs, not being too ridiculously overpriced for the alien tax. I mean, obviously this is all subjective, but a saber is going to run you 185. You can get these things right now if you're buying it with war bond with cash. It's 185 also, or 220. So you're looking at like a $45 markup. You compare that to some of the other alien ships that they've put out there and where they fit in the combat role, and that markup, while it's there, it's not nearly as extreme as I've said. This ship really fits in quite nicely in this role between that of, say, the Saber and the Vanguard series. It kind of really slots in there quite nicely, to the point where I actually got rid of my Saber. I CCU'd out of my Saber up to this thing just to have one, because I never really used the Saber because of its limitations, because it was a single seater, only I could use it. There were no beds, there was no place for me to drop a cargo box. You know, if I had to go down and retrieve it, do any of the black box missions or whatever, I just couldn't do that with the Saber. So, you know, if I was going to do a pure combat, like fighter mission, I would take the Arrow or the Super Hornet. If I was going to do anything beyond that, I was taking my Vanguard. And so the Saber just sat in my inventory unused. Well, I went ahead and CCU'd out of it, and now I have a ship that has most of the utility, if not the same utility as the Warden, in a smaller platform that's a little more easy to use, it's just a little more fun, and it has an interesting, unique aspect to it. That said, there are some problems you should be aware of right now in 3.7, that most of them are supposed to be fixed in 3.7.1, and there's a few quirks. So the known problems right now is A, you cannot refuel. You can go to the landing pads and stuff, and it just doesn't refuel it at all. It's a known bug, supposed to be fixed in 3.7.1. Number 2, there's a problem where if there's someone in both seats, so the pilot and the co-pilot seat, you can't enter quantum travel. You can still fly and do everything else, but if you try to enter quantum travel, it gets all crazy and doesn't do anything. That is supposed to be fixed in 3.7.1 also. The shields right now, while the shields are robust, if you look actually on the screen at the shield diagram, you'll see that the arms stick out a little bit in the diagram. I think they actually stick out also realistically within the game. I imagine this is just a shortcoming as they're working on Shields 2.0, which are going to mat over the ship a lot more like a skin rather than just be a bubble. So I imagine this is just kind of, they didn't adjust it correctly when it deploys out, when the arms are fully deployed forward. But when Shields 2.0 do come online, which I think might be as much as the next patch, 3.8 might have it, or 3.9, I imagine this will be fixed. But I have seen a few times where I'm flying along, and although my shields are still fully up and active, I take a shot to the front arm and I lose an arm. And then we run into a little bit of an issue, as all of this thing's maneuvering thrusters, its left and right maneuvering thrusters, are on those arms. So once you lose one of those arms, this thing becomes almost impossible to maneuver with, because you lose any correction. You try and turn to, like, if you lose the right arm, you can turn to the right, but then you can't stop the turn. You just continue to spin because you don't have any thrusters to correct the thrust back. So then you got to kind of roll and try to stop it that way. It becomes very difficult to fly if you lose an arm. And if you lose both arms, well, then you can't really maneuver left or right at all. You have forward, back, up and down, and that's basically it. You can pitch, which is really, really difficult. So the shields are a little bit of a pain in the butt overall. We're going to talk about the guns here in a moment. We'll come back to that. A few other little, not really problems, but challenges you have to deal with is because your guns are actually more centered than you are, which is a little weird. If you think about it, if you look at like a MISC Freelancer or something, while you are not sitting dead center when you're in the pilot seat and using the guns, your guns still are mostly equal to you on your left and right. Yeah, the right gun is further away, but it's still, when you shoot, your convergence seems to be dead in front of you. That's not actually the case on this thing. Your guns are more center aligned than you are regardless of it. So when you're in the left seat and you fire, you can notice the guns definitely are to your right, and when you're in the right side and you fire, your guns definitely are to your left. It's a little awkward at first, once you get used to it, it's not a big deal, but it did stand out for me when I first started to use it. That was a little strange. Let's think here. Any other real quirks? Oh, not something I can confirm yet, but I have hopes for. So because this thing does retract in the way it does, and when its arms are fully retracted in, it actually becomes a fairly small profile. I have hopes that this thing is going to be landable in ships like the Polaris. Whereas some of your ships, like something like a Vanguard, for now, we don't think is going to land on a Polaris. I don't think it fits in an 890 jump. It's just a little too big. Well, here you have a ship that, when it does curl up like that, although it becomes fairly tall, it also is fairly short in length. So I think you're going to be able to fit this into a lot more of those hangars than you can some of the larger ships. So I think that's a bonus that this thing brings along. Yeah, so that's your main stuff. Armament. Now we got to talk armament. So the Tachyon siege cannons, at times they're amazing. In fact, there's points, you've been watching some of this in the background, the Arena Commander, me flying around, taking these things on. No problem at all, they're great. Unfortunately, that only seems to be Arena Commander right now. If you jump over to the Persistent Universe, they just don't register. I'm not sure what it is. I imagine it has to do with the server tick rate or the server performance, but you get into these combat situations and it just takes forever because they miss 80% of the time. Even using the auto gimbals, the gimbal assist, whatever you want to call it, and you're in the exact same situation that you'd be in Arena Commander where they feel great. In the Persistent Universe, they just don't work. It's annoying. Now, the good thing is it's 4 sides, 3 hardpoints, so you can go ahead and what I do is I have spare Panther repeaters, Badger repeaters, whatever the size 2 ones are. I just pull it off, throw those on. They're not my favorite, but they work. I'm working my way up to having 4 Sawbucks on it. Those are a lot of fun to use. So I'll probably use those for a while. Only real downside to them is you got to go back and get ammo a lot, but those are good weapons to use. There's a lot of utility you can use with this ship in terms of weapons. You can even go non-gimbaled and do 4 size 3s, some bigger guns. So it's not a big problem, but the Tachyon cannons, they seem to have a lot of potential. They could be quite good. Right now, they just don't work. And I don't know when they will work in the Persistent Universe. So for the most part, if you do buy this ship, its default loadout is only good for you in Arena Commander. And that's a bit of a frustration. And that would be definitely a negative against it. But luckily we can change our weapons out. Now the weapons save on the insurance, so you don't have to be replacing the weapons all the time, and so on. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the Banu Defender. Overall, it's a very positive experience. I had no interest in this ship at all. I was not interested in it. I wanted to see what they did with it aesthetically. You know, they spent 6 extra months designing it. I wanted to see what they did with it on an artistic side of things, but I really wasn't interested in owning one. And as soon as I got it and started playing with it, I was like, wow, this flies like a Saber, but has the utility of some of the bigger ships and everything. I was impressed enough that, like I said, I cross-chassis upgraded my Raven, Saber Raven into, not Raven, Saber Comet into the Defender to have one permanently. And I like it. For right now, as of recording this with 3.7.1 on the PTU, I'm going to wait until then. 3.7.1 is going to fix the hydrogen fuel issue where you can't refuel. It's going to fix the co-op, the 2-pilot quantum drive and everything. The fuel issue is really the big thing. This thing does not have a whole lot of hydrogen fuel. You can go 3 missions, maybe 3 like bounty hunting missions before you need to go refuel. And right now you can't refuel, so that means like every 15 minutes you have to go insurance claim the ship to get it back with its fuel, which is kind of the one hindrance. It's not a flaw. The ship is just kind of a bug right now. So yeah, I think that about covers it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Is anybody else flying one of these around? Am I wrong comparing it to the Saber Raven? Or not the Raven, but the Saber in general? Do you prefer the Saber? It's understandable if you do. The Saber is a great ship, don't get me wrong. I think it's great, but I like being able to do the black box missions and stuff like that, or take a buddy along in this thing, and for that reason, I went ahead and cross-chassis. Yeah. Like I said, let me know what you guys think. Until next time, this has been Paler. Thanks for watching.